Welcome to the 194th webinar of our Saturday webinar series hosted by Managed Center for Innovation and Agripreneurship. So myself, Dr. Rahalya, working as a Managed Fellow. So before going to the presentation, let me give introduction about our center. So Managed Center for Innovation and Agripreneurship is a leading agribusiness incubator center operating under the National Institute of Agriculture Extension Management. We have a proud history of nurturing entrepreneurship, having guided 754 entrepreneurs and supported over 425 startups across various sectors within the agriculture domain. Our unique methodology at our center spans from ideation to full-scale commercialization, creating a robust ecosystem that transforms ideas into high-value propositions in a sustainable environment. We offer comprehensive support to startups in crucial areas such as agro-processing, post-harvest technologies, value addition, farm mechanization, animal husbandry, fishery, dairy, supply chain management, and agri consultancy. Our commitment to the agripreneurs drives us to continuously refine their concepts and empower them to grow their ventures. So today's webinar is dealing with the concept of building partnership in the agri-startup ecosystem. So we have two speakers with us. So to introduce our first speaker, let me call my colleague Ushasri to introduce our first speaker.
Yeah, good morning, Rahalya, and thank you much. Good morning, all of you. This is Ushasri, working as manager at Manage CIA. Welcome all of you to our 194th webinar. Today, here we have two most experienced professionals in the domain of agri startups and partnerships. To start with our first speaker, he is Mr. Abhijit Goswami, and he is working as a lead of operations and partnerships at Think AG. And he has more than 16 years of experience in agri-food technology, consulting, microfinance, and agri-warehousing commodity procurement. Not only this, he has expertise in various subdomains, especially in the field of agriculture, such as operations, partnerships, business development, value chain analysis, market research, business process re-engineering, etc. So, with this short introduction, I welcome you, Mr. Abhijit Goswami, to our 194th webinar on building strong partnerships in agri-startup ecosystem. Handing over to you.
Thanks, Usha. Thanks to the entire team of Manage CIA for inviting us to this webinar today. So we can start off the presentation.
Sure.
May I request you to?
Yeah, we are sharing it.
Yeah, next slide, please. So when we talk about this interesting theme of the agri startup ecosystem and partnerships, so how what is an ecosystem, startup ecosystem basically looks like? So typically, definitely the moment we say startup, definitely the startup, and before that an idea, the startup team, and the teams basically the services that basically the entire startup takes, whether it's any kind of financial services, whether it's any kind of outsourcing work they take from any other companies, or basically build it themselves. Dependency on incubators, because these are the launching platforms for their idea to basically come to a fruition, and also validation of their ideas, and also basically helping them in launching their ventures. So, and acceleration programs definitely are a must. Next, corporate sector, definitely, because if you want to scale up, at least in the field of agriculture, you definitely, and if your model is a B2B or a B2B2C, you definitely need some good tie-ups with the corporates. The government definitely plays a crucial role in this entire ecosystem, with the kind of policies, with the kind of incentives, with the kind of different frameworks they have been they should be bringing. And of course, I think in the last 10 years, we have seen a lot of activity, at least in the startup ecosystem, and a lot of the environment is very suitable, at least to take this to the next level. Universities, R&D institutions, very essential. because let's also understand that a lot of technologies are already developed in some of the universities. So instead of just trying to reinvent a wheel or something, if the startups can also basically license some of these technologies, I think that will save time and also basically help the startup to build the further story to this, instead of just trying to do everything himself, or through itself. Funding organizations, the financial institutions and all, definitely, and the kind of grants, the grant monies that are involved. Of course, a lot of grant money comes through incubators, but there are also programs, international programs by BFIs to support these kind of startups. And I think investors definitely are very crucial. So whether it's the angel investors, whether it's VCs, whether it's PE funds, so they definitely coming in to this picture, and definitely supporting startups is quite essential. Advisors, mentors, very essential for this, for a startup to at least help in grooming, and also basically, because ultimately, let's understand that the kind of startups that we see, if you analyze the kind of management, the entire composition, so it's basically a lot of, these are all techies. So they are very good in their field, they are excellent in their field, but probably from a domains perspective, they definitely need some bit of mentoring. So hence, and not everything can be just recruited or something, because they are also short of funds, and also definitely some access, whether it's to incubators or any kind of ecosystem players like ThinkAg and all. This definitely is a critical thing. Next slide, please. So very quickly, a glimpse of how the ecosystem, the startup ecosystem. So it's not the agri startup ecosystem, but basically startup ecosystem wise, the first 40 top startup ecosystems were ranked through a report, and this was done by Startup Genome. So if you look in the first slide, you will not find any single ecosystem from India featuring in this. Please go to the next slide. Here you'll find 3 ecosystems. The first being Bangalore, the second being Delhi ecosystem, and the third being the Mumbai ecosystem. So this ranking was done considering 5 success factors. So one is performance, funding, talent, and experience, market research, and knowledge. And we go to the next slide. Now, what these 5 things critically and importantly mean. So performance, it's basically the number of exits that any ecosystem gets to see in a given time frame. The ecosystem value, how big the ecosystem is, how many players. The success, how many are still running, how many are still scaling up, how many have shut down. So this is very important. Funding, yes. Access to timely funding, access to proper funding, and access to the best sources is definitely important. So quality and activity. Talent and expertise. So basically, when you talk about talent and expertise, it's basically the tech talent. Definitely, when you are innovating something, it's a technology, it's an agri-tech. So definitely that tech talent cannot be compromised. In most of the cases, it's the techies who bring their experience or probably the domain knowledge with them. In the life sciences, they also basically, since it's an agri domain, so definitely this area cannot be neglected. So life sciences, having talent, having suitable manpower from all these is very essential. And experience, more importantly, experience. How experience, what kind of vintage all these startups have, whether it's in the scaling phase or basically in the startup phase. So all these basically also cater to the talent and the experience point. Market reach. So technology, you cannot just hold within a country border. So whether it's good to say make in India and all, but basically make in India, but if it is useful for other territories, you definitely should explore market. So basically this is important criteria in that ranking also. 75 weightage was given for basically they looked at the business, if the ecosystem having 75% local customer, local clientele, and then 25% their presence in at least 25%, 25% in global markets. And last but not the least, the most important thing, the knowledge, the kind of patents, the number of patents. This is very important. The research, that because until and unless, at least in deep tech and all, until and unless you have good amount of research and also patents, you are not able to basically make it a long journey. Can we move to the next slide, please? Now, startup ecosystem. So basically, it's the same ecosystem what we talked about in our earlier slide, but basically, it's across the agriculture value chain and directly, indirectly, and also interdependent on the value chain actors. The main important beneficiary is farmer. But certain models are not only farmer centric, so they basically are also trying to work with farmer aggregates like FPOs. Certain models are directly, indirectly working with the intermediaries, because you cannot, they are, even if you say they are unnecessary, but you cannot just move them or just leave them. So you have to find suitable roles to also accommodate them. And going to the processing or the trading level, and then to the consumer. So the entire value chain, whether it's agriculture, whether it's allied sectors, dairy, poultry, fisheries, you can think of anything, sericulture, all things. This is the largely the agri-tech ecosystem. Next slide, please. Now, coming to partnerships. So partnerships cannot be, I mean, our experience is it cannot be just one or two entities that you just think yourself to be a strategic partner. Of course, business partners are different, but it's along your journey, you need different sets of partners, different kinds of partners, depending also on the model, depending on the product, depending on the service that you basically are catering to, or you have developed, or you have come out with. Incubators, accelerators, definitely. Your launchpad is an incubator, and if there are acceleration programs or there are institutions which are have some acceleration programs, that definitely is a very important link. Investors, yes, without money you cannot scale up. So you need investors. So 3 categories of investors, which we have already discussed. I'm not discussing further. Financial institutions, whether it's bank, NBFC, or any kind of institutions coming out with some kind of grant money and all, definitely. Government extension system, we cannot leave or we cannot bypass the government, because agriculture is a state subject. So definitely we need some liaison, depending on which value chain we are in, with the extension system. So until unless we develop some sort of partnership opportunity, or we explore what can be done, or how we can basically connect with them, so you cannot leave them. Institutions, agencies, universities, definitely, whether it's I said, whether it's licensing for a product, or basically if you also are interested in getting some people from different universities which are into specific domains and all, they definitely also are worth basically partnering with. And also, for more importantly, for your validation, because until unless what you claim is validated by an university or by an incubator or any such government agency, trust me, private sector doesn't accept it. They don't give you don't give you anything just by what you show in the presentation. So definitely validation is very important. NGOs, CSRs, and DFIs, they also are now pretty aggressive. They are also working in different capacities. So certain projects with them or through them. Farmers, if it's a B2C, farmer collectives, B2B or B2B2C, SAGs, agri value chain actors. So we already discussed this. Corporates, very important. Agri and rural and entrepreneurs. So if your model is basically something where you need a physical, because not everything in agriculture can be a digital platform. It has to be a physical. So you need some bit of physical connects. So it's always appropriate, advisable to at least search for local manpower who can help. And these entrepreneurs are basically educated graduates, or they could be farmers, sons and relatives or daughters, who basically are not interested in doing core crop cultivation practices, but they basically would want to develop a business. So worth exploring partnership opportunities with them. Startups. So these startups are basically startup partnerships. So one startup, if it can explore some non-competitive arrangement with another startup, which basically completes or solves a larger problem, this definitely is an important area. And at least with ThinkAg, we have done all this teaching for many startups. Let's understand one startup cannot be present at least in the initial leg of the journey in all the geographies, cannot be. So certain collaboration with some startup, of course, non-competing and all, definitely is desired. Overseas ecosystem, as I said, cannot just limit yourself to India or limit yourself to just Asia or something. You definitely should look at overseas markets, what's potential, whether it works in the Southeast Asian market, whether it works in African markets, because largely these markets are very similar. So whether there are certain platforms through which you are able to participate in certain programs, and through that you are able to basically go and do some pilot over there. So this area is definitely an important area. Can we go to the next one? Yeah. So now quickly, because I mean, I can discuss a lot of things, but since there is a limitation of time, I'll just focus on some of the kind of partnerships that we get to see in this ecosystem, in the startup ecosystem in agri per se. So one is affiliate marketing. So basically you have your own, suppose company A has their own products, but they basically are searching for, in order to scale up, so that they cannot basically hire manpower, build up teams and distribution channels everywhere. So they can use another company which is willing to basically distribute or sell their company products and get some bit of commission from them. So an example could be there are plenty of examples, but just to make you understand. So ICICI Lombard GIC is basically has tied up with a number of agri-tech startups to distribute their insurance products, whether it's crop insurance, whether it's cattle insurance, a number of insurance products are there. Next is the co-branding and the co-marketing. So one good example is suppose two companies or two organizations coming out with a co-branded kind of card. In this thing, I have given the example of AgriBazaar and Yes Bank coming out with Kisan Safalta card. So this is given to the farmer, and the farmer can basically buy any kind of inputs from any retail shops using this card. So this is already, I mean, this has already cash uploaded in it. So, I mean, money uploaded in it in the form of credit. So the farmer just can use this card and get his inputs timely timely. Next is referral agreements. So nothing to be disclosed in public, but there are certain agreements, whether formal, informal. But if a farmer comes to me and then it asks me, are you able to give this also? So my next question will be, sorry, we don't do this, but this company does. So through a referral, this entire business goes, and definitely some bit of revenue sharing is also there. Distribution partnerships. So I mean, imagine if I speak about I mean a large ag chem player like Bayer will immediately think that they should have the best network, the best marketing channels, but they also have partnered with, say, a government entity, and as well as a startup like Gram Unnati for the last mile delivery of agri inputs. So I think things are changing. A lot of alternate distribution channels are emerging. Cross promotion. So basically, company A, company B. So company A is also basically in their platform or in their app is giving the access to procure B's products, and vice versa. So interesting example is SBI, if you would be knowing, that has tied up with many agri startups in the last 2 years. And if you go to any platform, of all these, you'll definitely see SBI's products. Vice versa, if you also go to SBI's Yono app, you'll be definitely getting the there are windows, and depending on what you're looking for, they'll be shortlisting you to those companies. And once you go, you're able to basically put your orders or at least get in touch with the company. Bundling. So bundling is basically how you bundle. So one is your core product or your core service, plus you bundle, say, a financial service or a financial product with that. That could be from a financial institution, or it could be any other service that suppose company B is providing. So you bundle this, package this, and then you make a package cost of this. So out of this, whatever the revenue is being shared is what basically is taken away by the 2-3 entities. Licensing agreement. A very good example comes to my mind is Plantix. So Plantix, as you know, I think it's the only startup which will have the best quality and the largest number of images of whether it's a pest attack, whether it's a disease symptom, whether it's any kind of a physiological disorder. So the moment you basically capture anything on your phone, it immediately tells you this is the symptom, and then it guides you to what basically is the the advisory of what you action we need to take. So now this API, they have licensed it, and then companies have started procuring it, because ultimately, suppose a company A wants to sell their products, so they basically are also making their own app. They're taking the API access from them, the license from them. So the farmers there, for their own set of farmers, basically are clicking that, and they are guided to buy that company's product. So basically, this is what is going on. And on the white labeling thing, so I mean, several examples, but Agri-Startup has come up with their own private label. So initially their business was just to sell top brands and all, but now Agri-Startup brand is pretty established. So they have come up with white label products. Big Heart coming out with tapas. If you go to Big Heart platform, you see tapas products. So tapas products are nothing but from the other companies which do not have a brand visibility, or probably will take time to establish brands, but basically are okay with supplying to Big Heart. And Big Heart, since it has established a brand over the years, so it's basically leveraging on that. Can we go to the next slide, please? Supply chain partnership. So basically for your supply chain activities, whether it's the back end, front end, whatever. So whatever partnerships you do, a good example could be a startup like Aggregator, which is tied up with different food processing companies, traders, and then others as well. So different intermediaries. So your entire logistical requirement is being taken by care of by the company Aggregator. Next is a joint product partnership. So basically, two companies coming together, one definitely having some strength, the other also having some specific strength. Now, when you basically unite and then come out with a product, so imagine what would be. So Yara India, which basically is an established crop nutrition brand, will giving a hand to Bioprime, and they're coming out with some product which is solving a larger problem for the for Indian farmers. So Bioprime, a small brand, growing brand, a biological brand which doesn't have market access. Yara has good amount of market access, a large farmer base, but they basically need some differentiated product. So this is how this partnerships basically come to play. Platform partnerships, you can think about different e-commerce platforms. There are n number of platforms now. And through these platforms, so the input manufacturers or any kind of equipment manufacturers, they basically are selling those brands, and it's available in the farmer's doorstep through different kinds of models. Outsourcing, basically, it's mostly with the food manufacturing companies, food processing companies, or you could think about dairy processors. So they are I mean, example could be, say, AgriZ or maybe farmer who basically are aggregating the required quality, quantity, and the grade of produce or the raw materials that X company requires, and then basically they are meeting the timely demand of that. So you basically are outsourcing it to them. Next slide, please. Now, challenges are plenty, but I have just discussed some of them. So one is misaligned goals and expectations. So between two partners, you can think of if there is some bit of misunderstanding, or probably if the goals are not aligned, what I'm thinking you and what I'm aspiring may not be what you are aspiring. So there definitely can be some variability. So this is where certain things go wrong, and we come to things later on what the repercussions can happen. Then collaboration isn't precisely defined. This I have many examples, but without putting any names, this happens typically when a startup collaborates with a corporate. So initial meetings and a lot of things happen just by mails or just by virtual meetings, and there is no proper NDA sort of or agreement. So what happens in those is the moment a pilot is designed, and then also certain things like the pilot, what is the pilot, what is the what the company is basically going to judge at, what is basically the KRA, right? So what they are expecting, and are you able to meet? So these kind of things are not discussed in nitty-gritties, and this is where basically things go wrong. So until unless your documentation is properly complete, this is where you get wrong. Communication breakdowns. So a lot of times what happens is, ideally all partners should have a seamless kind of communication, but sometimes whether it's because what happens is not the I mean the founders only keep the communication, they delegate it to their staff. So what happens if it's a neglect or if it's some bit of delay? So those kind of delay or some kind of gaps in the communication tend to cause a lot of problems. Lack of trust. When you don't trust, suppose something has not performed between two of you, between the partners. So and then you start doubting your partner basically. Okay, I mean this is something probably. So I mean this is another important area where things again go wrong. Resistance to change. Please let's understand the ecosystem is evolving very fast. The value chains are also basically pretty evolving. So now, and the expectations from different customers, different clients are also changing. So until unless you are also flexible or versatile, it's very difficult. If you just stick to your own set of things or your own model, you should be ready to tweak things if required. Power imbalances generally happens if a partnership is between a corporate and a startup. So the corporate sometimes tend to dictate, or they think, okay, anyway, we are bigger than them. They are just, so whatever we say, they will follow. So these kind of things basically go wrong. Incorrect selection of partners. So this is when you basically think of someone as a partner, you should know the organization. So it's like a KYC. Until unless you know what the organization is capable to, what is its vintage, what it has done. But because it's easier to say this company is a partner, but whether it's strategically doing or delivering what you had aspired from that company, that's very important. And there could be others as well. Next slide. Now what's required is where the problems are there. We basically need to think, okay, where we shouldn't go wrong or where we should be very careful. Shared vision, very important. So a partnership is like a vision. So until unless you have a vision, a broader vision, and that a shared vision that, okay, we want to go in this, we want to achieve this together. We are partners and not thinking of just siloed units or something, but commonly we have to achieve this. Partner due diligence, as I said, very important. You should know your partner. Regular communication without any gap, seamless, time to time, whether it's decided frequency. Complete documentation. As I said, a lot of the things get discussed verbally, but not put on an agreement. People just, or else if the agreement is also made, some format is taken and people just sign it. Problems come up later. that, okay, this was not complied to, my payment is stuck. So these things basically. So one has to be very careful with the entire process. Review and reflection. So you need to review, reassess. Well, are we on track? Are we basically creating value for both of us? Are we basically getting the kind of business that we are expecting? So these kind of things. Flexibility and adaptability. You have to be flexible. As I said, we discussed this. Trust and transparency, definitely. So nothing should be hidden with your partner. Everything should be, that's why I said it should be a united effort. It should not be I, it should be we. So next slide, please. So with this, I complete my presentation. So I represent ThinkAg. It's a not-for-profit platform doing multi-stakeholder partnerships. And please feel free to reach out to us whenever required. Mostly our focus is building the startup corporate linkages, the startup corporate collaborations. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Abhijit sir, for informative presentation. Like you have given detailed description of complete partnership available in the Agri-Startup ecosystem. Like you also talked about what are the success factors for partnership, like performance, talent and expertise, market research. And also you have talked about why the multi-stakeholder partnership is important. And you also talked about what are all the companies actually doing this partnership. So, and you, at last, you also discussed about the challenges existing in the partnership. So that is definitely a informative presentation. So the questions will be taken up after the second speaker presentation, sir. So participants, if you have any question, you can keep in chat box or you can raise your hands. Questions will be taken up after second speaker presentation. So to introduce our second speaker, so let me call my colleague Pragya to introduce the second speaker.
Yes, Rahalya. Thank you and good morning, everyone. My name is Pragya Mishra. I am working as business executive at Manage CIA. And today we have our second speaker, Mr. Kushagra Gupta. He is the founder of Brand Scalers with extensive experience in mentoring startups and guiding SMEs in their marketing endeavors. Kusagra brings a unique blend of strategic vision and hands-on execution capability to the table. He is known for his ability to drive impactful marketing campaigns that align closely with business objectives, leveraging his deep understanding of startup dynamics and market trends. He is passionate about fostering innovation and sustainable growth. So with this small introduction, I hand over the session to Sir.
Thank you, Pragna, and thanks to entire Managed team for arranging such a valuable platform. And I'm amazed to see that 194 webinar have been done after today. So really, really great platform. And Abhijit beautifully captured the nitty-gritties of the entire stakeholder system in the agri startup ecosystem, right? So I will try to bring in some practicality with some case studies which I have kind of put up. May I have the presentation, please? Yeah, next slide. So, I mean, before I jump into this, I feel pretty nostalgic because I come from an agricultural family. And in fact, we had a family business of pesticides and seeds, way back around 20 years back. So I kind of got associated with the ecosystem from an age of 8 years itself, coming from a business family. So I've seen the complexities in the entire system very, very closely. And India is such a country where, we have 640,000 villages, which are like, humongous challenge in terms of distribution, and all the agri tech startups which are there. Really, really, kudos to all of you because you are solving for such a complex problem with tech first mindset. And there's huge opportunity across, and the kind of support and focus has been on agri-tech startups in last, let's say, 5 years is really, really unprecedented. All the industry stakeholders, including government, is really promoting, and some great work has happened. So much of positive news is around there. So keep doing it. It's a very tough ecosystem. But if you crack it, this is like, not even a gold mine, it's a diamond mine sitting in front of you. I think Abhijit captured the entire stakeholder system in pretty much very, very detailed manner. I will just take 30 seconds on this. I think for any industry, the consumer is always at the center of the table, and same is with this industry. Farmer is always at the center of the table, and rest of the stakeholders are kind of enablers to make sure that farmers win ultimately, because if they win, the entire stakeholder ecosystem will win. Next slide, please. So next slide. So what I will focus on, rather than talking about key stakeholders, I will focus on the various business models which exist in agri-tech ecosystem, right? So that, and then we will discuss certain pointers about it. This is very critical because when you are talking about a complex ecosystem like this, you need to have a very clear go-to market, right? You may have a great product, great service, or anything else, but if your go-to market eventually fails, eventually, businesses are built by revenue and profit, right? So we need to make sure that our great product doesn't remain, just a great product. It is also adopted by a great number of people in our country, right? So there are certain business models which I tried to put up here, right? So just like the buzzword D2C, right? D2F is the word for agri-tech startups, where a company is trying to directly transact with the farmer, right? So you are kind of taking off all the middlemen from the ecosystem and directly selling to farmer. Here, of course, your key stakeholders, farmer will always be there in all the business models. But if it's a product startup, you really need to have an input supplier. Since this is going to be a technology first, you will most probably you will have your own website, your own app. Hence, and with that, so I will give an analogy. It's like you have set up your own digital shop, right? You have a digital shop, and from there you are reaching to 640,000 villages of India, right? The good thing is that, this is possible now because the digital penetration is just increasing and increasing. Even though today it is, my guess is, I read certain reports that the farmers are using 15 to 20% of the farmers are using these smartphones for knowing more about their land, their crops, etc. So 15% of ecosystem is already available for this business model, where you directly reach out to a farmer to sell your product or services, right? Certain examples: Agrostar, Bharat Agri, Gramophone. I have tried to classify them broadly. There might be a possibility that one startup might fall into more than one business model here, one startup. So bear with me over there. But broadly, I would say that these are the startups: Agrostar, Bharat Agri, so on and so forth, which will fall into a direct to farmer business model, to give you a certain idea. The second business model is Amazon of this ecosystem, right? A marketplace model, and Abhijit already covered big heart type of platforms, where they are bringing together multiple partners, just like Amazon brings in, and then you are, so essentially there is a middleman in this model. Like, you might be the brand owner, but you may not get the direct access to the farmer out there, because that farmer is the customer of this market player. So this is the difference between a D2C and a marketplace model, D2C/D2F model. And I'm just taking a corollary here, that why D2C startups are valued more, because they have the direct access. Once you own the customer, just like the old saying goes, that customer is king, right? Once you have the access to the king, then you can do way more things with the customers directly. So but it also comes with there is a negative of it versus a marketplace model, because one shop versus a shop where so many brands are there, so the traffic will always be higher on a marketplace model. So there are pros and cons between a D2F model and a marketplace model. The next one, a SaaS-based model, software as a service, right? Now, agri-tech, so the tech is the key, right? So this is essentially for me, you are trying to solve some very, very large problems via technology. Primarily, this is a cloud-based, platform. A sub version of this, I would say, the fifth one, the precision agricultural model. These two, SaaS and precision agricultural model, I would classify them as pure play agri-tech model. Largely, they are based on certain kind of optimization service, right? You can test your soil, you can, have better weather predictions, you can probably have what commodity, what crop will have higher chances of getting the best revenue out there. And so many services can be provided with this, right? In this, technology will play a huge role along with the research, because you're trying to optimize something. So instead of let's say giving a certain type of resource to your crop versus giving some other resource, right? So there has to be a research based decision making, and hence all the research institutions will play a huge role in this. The fourth business model I see is an end-to-end services model. This is all encompassing. You are selling product, you are selling services, you are probably also providing finance. So, right, it's probably like Amazon, and probably I would say like, Policy Bazaar kind of platforms brought together, and all the needs of a farmer will be served via this end-to-end services model. The precision agriculture model, we have already discussed this. So I will jump into agri fintech model. This is finance, right? And this is very kind of critical, because in India, access to finance is a major problem for farmers. I have seen personally farmers borrowing capital at 18% rate, or like 5% monthly interest rate, just to buy seeds, just to buy pesticides, just to buy fertilizers. And then they are a lot dependent on the weather conditions, and when this doesn't happen, the crop doesn't happen, they fall into a huge vicious circle of not having right capital, still have to pay the interest, right? So this is a very big problem for our country. And right kind of financing, whether it is finance, whether it is insurance, right? So there are a lot of startups which are trying to solve for this a problem. Here, this is a very controlled, because finance is a pretty controlled ecosystem in our country, right? So financial institutions, tech will always be there, right? These two will play, and also regulatory will play a huge role, that what kind of financing model you are adopting, right? So and certain examples, Argos, Jai Kishan, etc. I have just put up here. Now, the next one, farm to fork model, right? So far, all the business models were primarily centered around selling something to the farmers, right? But what if you want to buy something from them with a clear focus? So this is the farm to fork model. Here, one of the stakeholder is a normal layman like me, a consumer, right? So buying fresh vegetables from a farm and then delivering directly to my home. This is the kind of farm to fork model. So essentially, from farm, you procured something and you directly supply it to the end consumer. Again, kind of taking off all the middlemen in the picture. This model is picking up, growing very rapidly. Reason is, at consumer level, there is a shift in the behavior. there are a lot of people who want to buy the most fresh vegetable or something organic. For organic farming, this is a great business model because we all are, as consumers, we all are buying things directly from various platforms which have come up, right? So I wanted to, give you all a point to ponder upon, right? Your decisions to choose the stakeholders you are going to engage with in the pecking order of who is the most important stakeholder for me will also depend on the business model you are adopting, right? For a direct to farmer business model to a farm to fork business model, there might be a variance in the kind of efforts you need to put on stakeholder A versus a stakeholder B. So the first thing I want you all to kind of, first figure out what is the go-to market, what is the business model you are going to adopt for your commercialization, right? If there are any questions on this, I can take it up. Otherwise, we move to the certain case studies which I have put up. Okay, so moving forward, either it is all understood or it is not understood at all, right? So the first case study I want to discuss with you all is a pretty known name in this space, Agri-Startup. They have been in business for roughly a decade now, more than a decade, right? And their entire business model, I would say, is primarily based on direct to farmer model, right? So they are trying to directly reach out to the farmers via their platform, right? So what happens then? Where is my shop? Where is my business platform? My business platform is the mobile app and the calling system they have, right? And their revenue is essentially, so they are selling certain products, they are selling certain services, and for this they have integrated lot of features. And why I'm calling it out is, like I said, India as a country, we have more than 6 lakh villages. What it means is you are dealing with a huge amount of heterogeneity, right? So a multilingual support. Farmers don't speak in English, right? The language of Bharat is very different from, they don't use jargons. They are very simple living beings, very smart, by the way. But you need to connect with them, because trust is a very, very critical factor in agri-business, because they are trusting a stakeholder for their livelihood. If the crop of this season doesn't do well, they will be without any money for next 6 odd months unless until the next cycle comes up. So building that trust is very important, and language plays a huge role in doing that. So multilingual support is something they have really cracked upon. Crop diagnostics. See, you have to add value, right? The moment you start adding value to the other person will automatically come to you, right? We all are seeking things for ourselves. So same is with farmers. So crop diagnostics is a great way of, adding value. Peer interaction, like, there are a lot of learnings in our country. One farmer did this, another farmer did this. So with this kind of peer interaction, farmers learn among each other, right? Now, the kind of partnerships they have done, they have really done some, great partnerships, and across, I mean, just to manage this kind of complex stakeholder system is an effort which is, praiseworthy. So input suppliers, finding and cracking deals with all the seeds, fertilizers, pesticides manufacturers, right? This I mean, I've just quoted certain benefits, but I will not delve into it, right? Now, when I'm talking about calling system, right, I need to have telecom providers as my partner, because I need to have a perfect experience when it comes to, interaction with farmers. For the digital platform, you require technology provider. If you're launching a mobile app for farmers, you need to have a great development team. You need to have a great management team. You need to have a great content partner.
Sir, sorry
Right.
to interrupt. Since we are short of time, we'll complete in 2 minutes so that we can have time for discussion also.
Sure. So yeah, so I think I will just wrap it up. What I want to suggest is, and then probably this PPT can be shared with the attendees. You need, just because of the paucity of time, you need to find your own business model. You need to chart a stakeholder system for your own business model. Like in my business model, these are the stakeholders which are probably, high priority, then medium priority, then low priority. And accordingly, look for some case studies like the top competition in your segment, how they have gone about it, and map it with your thinking. Probably they would have done something better than you from your thinking, something they might be missing. So fix it up and accordingly choose because you will have limited resources. Accordingly, choose your resource mix to make sure that you cover all the stakeholders. Sure. Over to you.
Thank you, sir, and sorry for interruption since we are
No
short
issues.
of time.
Yeah.
Thank you for explaining all the business models existing in the agri-startup ecosystem, like direct-to-farmer model, marketplace model, SaaS model, and end-to-end service model, precision agriculture model. So anyway, we will share the PPT with participants. So now moving to the question and answer session. So there is a question from Sandhya, sir. So she's asking how to partner with educational institute like IITs and IIMs.
If I may go. So
Yeah, Vijay,
partnership
you are.
is, so Sandhya represents a startup or what entity? I mean, that will be good to know. Because if you go as a startup, I don't know how much willing they'll be to, because if they do any kind of projects, it's a consulting project that they do, and you have to reward them for the time they basically come as consultants. So, I mean, from the IMs, I can at least tell you, startup, right? So basically, if you need some domain expertise, if you need some bit of mentoring, so they are willing to definitely, they have a lot of experts, and depending on which area or what segment you want in, you can reach out, you can study the profiles and then basically connect with them, but they have their own charges for the time they come in and they basically advise you or basically do the consulting.
Just to add here, Abhijit, I would suggest, unless you have a very specific requirement for incubation or very specific requirement, I think the startup ecosystem works better with the other stakeholders like ThinkAG, right? I would suggest startups to first go to ecosystem enablers who are faster, right? IITs and IIMs, they have their own protocols. They are semi-government organizations. So there are so many enablers right now in the system. Reach out to them first, have them on board, and then actually they guide better if you actually require to go to an IIT or an IIM, because I mean those are educational institute of highly great repute, but for business purpose, the business enabler ecosystem works better. That is not just for agri-tech, also in the normal startup ecosystem. You will see not many startups go and incubate themselves into IIMs and IITs. They go and get them incubated in Manage and AIC and the other VC and angel eco partners, right?
Thank you, sir. So, and there is a question from Ravi. Actually, he's asking like, what are some advantage of establishing startups in Bangalore versus cities like Hyderabad?
How is Bangalore and Hyderabad different? They both are large cities.
Tell you the advantages. I mean, Kushagra can add his experience.
I think
Bangalore.
I would club Bangalore and Hyderabad in the same bucket versus probably a tier 1 city versus a tier 2 city. This is how I will address this. The advantage is clear. Cities like Hyderabad, Bangalore, if you are setting up a tech startup, you will have better access to tech talent. You will have better access to other ecosystem providers, right? There will be enough incubators, accelerators, mentors in these large cities versus, let's say, a Kakinada, a tier 2, tier 3 city, right? So that's a great advantage. The financial, the fundraising becomes easy. The regulatory is sitting here. So lot of crucial enablers are the headquarters are in large cities, so that's one of the advantages I would say is having your base in a large city.
Thank you, sir. Ravi, I think you got the answer. And there is a question from Sasi Kumar. So he is asking about some suggestions for students, like how to start how to establish their startups, like how to overcome the environment. So he's asking some suggestions, sir.
Abhijit, you want to take it up?
Which is the question?
Sir, he's asking some suggestions how students can establish startups, like how to overcome all the barriers.
See, ultimately, it's basically the day you build up confidence, the day you build up, okay, I don't want to get into a system where I'm earning salary, but I'm going to risk and then basically prove myself, no matter it takes me 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and I'm willing to invest my time, energy, focus, everything. That day, I basically differentiate myself and then get into the entrepreneur mentality. So I'll tell you, even if you have seen a lot of researchers, they have good amount of patents, but if you actually analyze how many of them are entrepreneurs, the figure is dismal. So I think it's the fear not to be able to perform or to able that my my startup will get closed any day, or probably I might not be able to basically overcome the challenges. So that day, I think nothing else is required, because ultimately the journey for anyone is the same.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And there is a question to Kushagra, sir. There is a question from Sharad. He is asking, what is the basic difference between SAS model and precision farming model?
They're pretty close, but precision model is largely based around hardware, right? It's IoT based startups. So I would say SaaS and precision. Precision is one step up in advanced tech, right? And they also focus more on hardware versus software. SaaS is pure play SaaS software, and precision is largely into hardware. They also use softwares, but yeah, more focused around hardware.
In addition to Kushagra sir, I want to inform to all the participants that Manage has conducted several tech-based webinars. So if you check out the website, the recorded sessions are there. What is SaaS? That is what is AI, ML. So all the technologies on a separate webinars we have discussed, so that you will get a more idea. So that links also we have shared in the chat box.
Thank you, sir. So I think we are short of time. Still, the participants have question. So participants, still, if you have question, the speaker details are already shared in the chat box. So you can contact them and you can mail them. So coming to the end of the presentation, and there's a update from Manage SIA. So we have opened Agri-Eureka application. So within 3 to 4 days, the applications will be closed. So the interested participant, if you want to apply for it, you can register through Manage SIA website, and do not forget to give the feedback of this webinar, and also do not forget to register for upcoming webinar, and also do not forget to follow us on social media. So, and I would like to thank both the speakers, Kushagra sir and Abhijit sir, and also Manage SIA team and my director. So see you next week with one more topic. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone. All the best.
Thank you, Kushagra sir. Thank you, Abhijit. Thanks.